We've heard social media gives everyone a voice. That lets you connect with your friends, lets you join like-minded communities, or it enables small and medium-sized businesses to reach their customers. And note, all of these things are true. But lurking behind them, sort of imagine this like face for, oops, there we go. Lurking behind that story were a set of problems. And these problems sound very familiar because they're the ones press often covers of, well, it was addicting us, creating disinformation, misinformation, creating increasing mental health crises, polarization, censorship, and free speech. But even behind these, because these are actually symptoms, they are epiphenomena of something deeper, which was the race for attention, which we coined as the race to the bottom of the brainstem.
And as it was racing to basically under this logic of maximize engagement, right? So it's not really about let's get angry at Mark Zuckerberg for the things that he did, although Facebook did plenty of things that are wrong. He and the other companies are all caught in this race. So we could predict in the future, what is the world going to look like? It's going to look more addicted, outraged, polarized, narcissistic, validation seeking, because we know that they're all competing for engagement. And this logic of maximize engagement rewrote the rules of every aspect of our society. Children's identity and sense of self-worth becomes run on how many likes did I get, right? Our politics get run in election campaigns are run through the logic of what content can I post that's most engaging. National security, media and journalism, clickbait economy, right? So this kind of took the key organs of our society and it held them hostage. And the reason it's been so hard to regulate social media is because social media became entangled with our society. And now it's been really hard to fix that misalignment. So as we head into second contact with humanity and AI, we have to ask ourselves, did we fix the first misalignment with social media? We did not.
We should just name, because we haven't defined it yet, what is second contact?
Yeah.
First contact, curation AI. Second contact, creation AI. We've gone from choosing what you see to creating what you see, so it's a much more powerful technology, so we should expect all the ways that the misalignment has not been solved to make the problems that it creates exponentially worse. So let's run through this with the new technology.
So what are the stories that we're telling ourselves about AI, right? The new release of ChatGPT, GPT-4. How many people here have used ChatGPT? Okay, just about everyone in this room. What are the stories we're telling ourselves? Well, AI is going to make us more efficient. It's going to help us write code faster. It's going to help us solve impossible scientific challenges, and it can do that. It's going to help us identify new drugs, solve climate change, and of course, it'll help people make a lot of money. It'll unlock a lot of GDP growth. And these stories are all true. They're real stories, but much like in the past, hiding behind that is this kind of evil mask, and people are pointing out, well, wait a second, what about AI bias and fairness? And those are real existential issues for people. What about AI's taking our jobs? Or Kevin Roose at the New York Times, where the AI is sort of making him break up with his girlfriend. There's these very sort of dark components lurking in the background, but behind that even, what we want to focus your attention on is this other kind of race again. Remember that second rule of technology. If the technology confers power, it starts a race. So what's the race in AI? It's a race to deploy capabilities into society and outcompete the other guy. So OpenAI is competing with Anthropic, with Google, with Microsoft to deploy their thing as fast as possible, because if they deploy it faster, maybe they'll win that race. So we're going to get into, basically for this next portion of the presentation, the dark side of what can happen if we don't coordinate the race that ends in tragedy. You get breakdown of trust and truth, AIs that can find loopholes in law, automating religions, exponential blackmail, revenge porn, automated exploitation of code. We'll get into this, don't worry. And what we want to tell you is that I want you to notice that everything we're about to talk about in this presentation, we're not going to talk about sci-fi scenarios where the AI makes humanity go extinct? That's a big debate that's going on. Part of why we made this presentation is that you don't need the AGI apocalypse to be very concerned about the kind of risks that actually AI poses. And that's to say because we have been skeptical, actually I much more than you, have been quite skeptical of AI myself. In fact, I actually thought the people who were worried about AI and existential risk were kind of crazy sci-fi type people. And there's a good reason for that, because how many of people here, you use Siri and you get an experience like this?
Siri set a 9-hour and 50-minute timer.
Playing the Beatles.
So he says, Siri set a 9-hour and 50-minute timer, and it plays the Beatles, right? It gets our name wrong. It mispronounces street addresses. And so this is the experience. AI didn't feel like it was exploding, right? Didn't feel like there was much to be concerned about, and it got lots of things wrong. So why does it suddenly feel like AI progress is exploding? Why does it feel like it's going so fast? Well, in 2017...
So we'll take you back to 2017, when there was sort of like Indiana Jones style, a swap that happened. And the thing that we call AI switched to a new engine called Transformers. It's actually around 200 lines of code. And it was remarkably different than what came before in its simplicity. So when I went to college, AI used to have many different subdisciplines, right? There was computer vision, and computer vision had its own textbook, it had its own building. And then over here, there was like, might be, I don't know, robotics with its own textbook and its own building. And then over here, there was something about music. And if I was a researcher in one field, I honestly couldn't even read a paper in one of the other fields. And what did this mean? This meant that it was a diffuse kind of progress, right? A 1% or 2% increase in computer vision had nothing to do with the increase in, say, robotics. And in 2017, that changed. And suddenly, all of those fields became one field, which was the ability to model language. So the thing that's going to sort of, I think, we want you to walk away with, and that may break your mind, is that when you look out at the world and you see many different AI demos, behind the scenes, they're actually pretty much the same AI demo. And we're going to describe exactly what that means. So what does it mean to treat everything as language? Well, obviously, the text of the internet is a kind of language, and if you can like predict what word comes next, fine. But it turns out you can treat almost everything as a kind of language. DNA is sort of obvious. It's just a sequence of base pairs, GT, AC, GT. Fine, you treat that as a language, but now you can decode and generate, the language of life. You can treat images as language. It's just a set of like pixels, red, green, blue, blue, green, red. And if you learn to treat that as just like text, you can now decode and generate images. Videos are just sequences of images, a kind of language. Code is just a kind of language. Law is just a kind of language. fMRIs become just a kind of language. And the AI lets you decode and translate between any one of them.